So guys, we're doing a heavyweight roundup video. 3 heavyweight fights this week that I thought merited some sort of discussion on the channel, and keen to hear what people are thinking of them. We're going to start Adrian Granat versus Alexander Dimitrenko. Adrian Granat, friend of the channel, as long-time viewers will know. Someone will get back on to do another interview and update after this fight. Now, for those of you looking at oddschecker.com, there is a mistake relating to this fight, where they have quoted Adrian Granados, the light welterweight contender who recently fought Adrian Broner, fighting Alexander Dimitrenko. But I can confirm that it will not be a light welterweight fighting Alexander Dimitrenko. It will be giant heavyweight Adrian Granat fighting Alexander Dimitrenko. So, I know that's caught a few people's eyes on the build-up to this, but it's Granat versus Dimitrenko. So Granat, unbeaten prospect, some promise in recent performances, a guy who's known as a big puncher, coming up against Dimitrenko, who at this stage is probably the bigger name of the two. Dimitrenko is a guy who's probably been on the borderline of the top 50, for the last couple of years. Probably just dropped out of that on the back of a heavy defeat against Joseph Parker, where he really did not put in a good performance and was stopped. Prior to that, we've seen Alexander Dimitrenko lose to Kubrat Pulev, where he was outboxed and outjabbed. Dimitrenko is a big man. He's very big, and his style is to box. He likes to use his range and his size. The difficulty for me is that he's very slow, very plodding, very unathletic at this stage of his career. And whilst he's got a high KO percentage, I think that's possibly because the level of opposition that he's actually been knocking out has been very low. Adrian Granat is a lot younger. Granat has a lot more momentum. He's a lot fresher. And you'd have to think that even if Granat is only 50% as good as his team around him believe that he is, that he's going to have enough to beat Alexander Dimitrenko. It's a step up for Granat, don't get me wrong, but he's looked a fighter who's got the potential to be involved in that top 30 conversation, and if that promises to be lived up to, he's surely going to have to beat Alexander Dimitrenko. I think it's an interesting time to pick Dimitrenko as an opponent. Personally, if I was managing Granat, I'd have thought twice about picking Dimitrenko, because Dimitrenko's a guy who's been durable at certain stages throughout his career, but he looked terrible last time out against Joseph Parker. So if Dimitrenko bounces back and puts in a good performance and asks some severe questions of Granat, it maybe won't make Granat look so good with the way that Dimitrenko was demolished at the hands of Joseph Parker. Similarly, if Granat goes out and smashes Dimitrenko to pieces, people are going to say that Dimitrenko is a shock fighter after his loss to Joseph Parker. So, it's an interesting fight. Let's see how Granat looks up at that sort of top 50 level. You could make an argument that a win over Dimitrenko puts Granat into that top 30 conversation that we have on this channel every 6 months or so, and perhaps it's a route to bigger, better things. Dimitrenko's certainly a more established name than anyone Granat's beaten so far, and you just like to think that Granat will be a bit quicker, a bit harder hitting, and a bit more athletic, and that he should have enough here to beat Dimitrenko. Personally, I'm hoping for the stoppage. I think that if Granat can find a home for his power punches, I'm just not sure how much of Dimitrenko is left at this stage of his career, and I'm hoping that Granat can make a statement by stopping him. Switching up the pace, Teper Vs Wach versus Erkan Teper, a fight that is going to be known to many, unfortunately, as a battle of the drug cheats. Erkan Teper starts the fight as a substantial favourite. Teper Vs Wach is the outsider in this fight, and I think that's interesting because since his return from performance-enhancing drugs bans, Erkan Teper has looked pretty woeful, really. Pretty woeful. Beaten on points last time out by Christian Hamer. And Teper Vs Wach is the kind of guy who could potentially cause some problems for Erkan Teper if Teper Vs Wach is in decent shape. Because Teper Vs Wach's a big guy, very tall. He's got a jab when he uses it. It's not a Vladimir Klitschko jab, but it's a point-scoring jab. And Erkan Teper's looked very slow, very heavy, very immobile in his recent fights. And if Teper Vs Wach can start strong and start picking up rounds early behind a jab, Erkan Teper's a guy who, for me, could struggle at this stage of his career, having come off the performance-enhancing drugs. Mariusz Wach, as you guys know, is known as having an immense chin. So even though Erkan Teper has displayed signs of power, certainly when he was on performance-enhancing drugs, you'd like to think that Mariusz Wach can live up to his, his chin can live up to Teper's power. And I think potentially, if this becomes a boxing match, I actually favour the outside work of Wach to Erkan Teper. I think Erkan Teper is more of an uneducated bouncer who had, incredible power when on performance-enhancing drugs, but without that, is a guy who's slow, a guy who's immobile, and is a guy who's a bit lackluster. So I'm thinking we could potentially see an upset here, and I think Mariusz Wach could get the nod, and that's a fight that could put Mariusz Wach, if he were to win, back in the top 30, top 25 conversation, and potentially propel him to a more meaningful fight at some point. Finally, let's talk Amir Mansour versus Travis Kauffman in what I believe is being badged up, certainly by the bookmakers, as pretty much a 50-50 fight. Amir Mansour is a guy I would pick to beat Travis Kauffman historically, but I just wonder, Mansour's 44, 45, something like that, a lot of miles on the clock, and whilst he was putting in a very, very good performance against Dominic Breazeale last time out, Breazeale landed some telling blows on him, and ever since then Amir Mansour's been out of the game. He's been inactive. He hasn't been getting the opportunities, and you just wonder if age is finally starting to catch up with Amir Mansour, and potentially Travis Kauffman may have caught him at the right time. However, whilst this fight is a lot closer than I would have had it 2 years ago, I still am going to side with Amir Mansour in this fight. And again, it's a fight that can get Mansour back into that top 30, top 25 mix if he's to prove victorious. Kauffman, I don't believe he's a world beater, and I think if Amir Mansour can find a home for his awkward power punches, he's still got enough to cause real problems for a guy like Travis Kauffman. So there you go, guys. Those are my selections, and I think for you guys who follow the heavyweight division closely, these are relevant fights because you know what it's like in the heavyweight division. One big win and you're straight back into the mix. And the way Deontay Wilder's picking opponents, as voluntary challengers, and some of the other big name fighters out there as well. You never know. You could see the winner of one of these fights in a very, very, very big matchup at some point. Perhaps for European titles, perhaps for being fought against top level prospects, so that the prospects can secure good rankings, etc. But yeah, I think all three of these guys, all three of the winners, are guys you would potentially look at in the top 30 of the heavyweight division, whoever those winners are. I'm going for Granat over Dimitrenko. I'm going for Mansour over Kauffman. And I'm going for Mariusz Wach in an upset against Erkan Teper. Let me know who you're picking. Which of these fights are you looking forward to the most? Who do you think is going to win? Do you think there's any upset potential on the card? Leave your comments in the section below. If you've enjoyed this video, please hit the thumbs up button. And if you're new to the channel or you haven't done so before, please do subscribe. Many thanks indeed for tuning in.